Hello traders, Rich here and welcome to Kucoin as episode 44, and today we are going to go over 7 privacy tokens I'm keeping an eye on. As usual, if you don't know about Kucoin, it's one of the largest crypto exchanges in the world with over 700 billion traded volume on the platform and 10 million registered users from more than 200 different countries. Kucoin has many features like margin trading, spot trading, mining pool, staking, lending, and many more with over 700 listed coins. If you don't have an account yet, I'll make sure to attach my referral link in the description below. And if you create an account through it, you'll benefit from 20% discounts on your trading fees. So let's get started. And as usual, cheers. Let's start with XMR Monero, which is my favorite one so far when it comes to privacy, of course. We have been overall bearish from a long-term perspective from weekly time frame, and we lately have been stuck inside this correction as a flat correction inside these two support and resistance, respecting the round numbers 100 and 200. So for the bulls to take over from a long-term perspective, I would like to see a break above this channel, which would also be a break above the 200 round number, acting as a resistance zone. So once we break above it, we'll be expecting a shift in momentum from bearish to bullish, and we'll be expecting this long-term bullish movement. Meanwhile, since we are inside this range, as we approach this lower bound, we'll be looking for short-term bullish movements to target this 200 resistance zone again. So if you zoom into daily time frame, we can see the 150 as a support zone as well. If you zoom into H4 time frame, we can draw this channel as engulfing this latest bearish movement, impulse correction, and as we approach this lower bound right there, I'll be also looking for a short-term bullish movement, but then from a medium-term perspective, I want to break above this trend line to target this 200 zone. So my trading plan for now, from a long-term perspective, waiting from weekly a break above 200. Meanwhile, as I showed you from H4, I'm waiting for this to start to look for buy stops, knowing that we can dive inside the zone before we trade higher. Next, we've got Dash, which is my second favorite one. And if you remember, this one is very similar to Litecoin chart, respecting the round numbers 50, 100. Of course, we also have the 150 here and the 200 around this area. Anyway, we rejected the 50 just like LTC, and we have been trading higher since then. Look at how stable this one is. It's one of the biggest exchanges, or one of the oldest ones, as you clearly see. If you zoom into daily time frame, previously, for those who have been watching my previous analysis, we had this inverse head and shoulders, left head and the right shoulder. We broke above the neckline, and we have been bullish since then. We also broke above this previous major high, which is around this area, and the previous minor high. So we are still bullish as long as we keep on breaking the previous high. So I'm currently still holding, and if we break above this, I'll be adding more longs along the way. Unless, of course, we break below this low, which would also be breaking below this green zone. In this case, we'll be expecting a deeper correction movement where I'll be looking for buy stops right there, which would be lining up with this demand zone if you look left, with this high, which if you look right, with this lower trend line right there. So demand, previous major high, and the trend line, it would be a good area to look for buy setups. So my trading plan for Dash, as you clearly notice, I'm still holding from here, and we'll keep holding as long as we keep on breaking the highs. Unless we trade lower, I'll be looking for new buy setups around the trend line. Next, we've got Zcash, or ZAC. From weekly time frame, we rejected the support, demand zone, and previous low right there around the 25. But for now, we are still inside the zone between the 40 and the 50, which, as you can clearly see, it has been acting as support previously. Once broken downward, it has been acting as a resistance. So for the bulls to take over from a long-term perspective, as you see here, I want a break above the 50. In this case, I'll be expecting a longer-term bullish movement, at least till these previous highs. For now, just like previously, we are inside this range, just like XMR, as we approach this lower band, which would be the previous high right there, lining up with this previous highs and lows. I'll be looking for short-term buy setups, of course. Unless we break it downward, it wouldn't be good, but for now, we are bullish, slightly bullish, right? So making higher lows, higher highs, looking for trend following short-term buy setups until we eventually break above it. Then I'll be adding the main bag, if you want to call it. If you go to H4 time frame, very similar to XMR, we are bearish training inside this channel after rejecting this resistance. So I'll be waiting for a new high to form around this area and then buy on break upward. Or of course, the lower we get, the better or the higher the probability setup it would be. So long story short, looking for buy setups here from a short-term perspective and waiting for this 50 zone to be broken from daily and weekly to buy again long-term. On Zen, yes, it's Zen, not Zek. On weekly time frame, can't really say much. We are stuck inside a big range. Here we go. If you zoom into daily time frame, you can see the range even cleaner. We have been trading inside this floor. We broke it downward. We are trading inside this floor. We broke it upward and so on. So for the bulls to take over long term, we need to see a break above the 15. Once we have this break, it would be also Zek breaking above the 50, XMR breaking above the 200, and so on, right? We'll be breaking above this. I'll be buying long term. Meanwhile, we have this trend line, we have this impulse, correction, impulse. We are currently in a correction, waiting for the boost to kick in to go for a short-term buy. It's a very strong area, previous highs right there, also around number 10 or 11. And as we approach the trend line, it will also be intersecting with the trend line. We'll be looking for buy setups. If you zoom into H4, very similar channel, just like ZAC, XMR, Dash, and so on. We'll be looking for this buy after we break up of a high and the upper trend line in orange. Let's continue. We've got scrt. We have been stuck inside this range, so I will not zoom into lower time frames because already around a resistance zone. We have been trading inside this floor. We broke it downward. We are trading inside this floor now, and this one, scrt, is respecting round numbers in terms of 0.5. So 0.5, 1, 1.5, as you clearly see. So once we break above the 1 round number, which is a strong round number, also a resistance zone has been respected multiple times. I'll be buying this one. Or of course, as we trade lower, I'll be looking for short-term buy setups starting from this zone. If you move forward to oxen, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, so correct me if I'm wrong. We keep on learning every day. This one is also previously inside this floor, broken down, now inside this floor. So I would like it to break above the 0.2. Once we break above it, it would also break above this channel, and it would be a good signal to go for a long-term long. And meanwhile, as we test this lower bound, I'll be looking for buy setups right there. So we can zoom into H4 time frame, draw a channel just like we did on ZAC, Zen, and so on, and look for a buy after we break above a high and the upper trend line. If you move forward, last but not least, we've got arrr or triple R. So we have been trading inside this big support zone for the boost to take over. As you clearly notice, I want a break above the 0.5 from a long-term perspective or from a medium-term perspective in this case, and then I'll be adding some more if we break above this upper band. Meanwhile, we are trading inside this range, so as usual, we'll be trading the range until eventually it's broken upward or downward, right? So as we approach this lower band, I'll be looking for short-term buy setups. Zoom into H4 time frame, the logic is always the same. Wait for something like this and then buy on break upward. Of course, meanwhile, we will be bearish and until a high and the trend line is broken, we can still trade a little bit lower to dive inside or around the support before we trade higher. So that's basically it for the 7 privacy tokens I'm looking at. We've got a lot of privacy tokens, so feel free to request any tokens that I would be happy to do it next or any other topic. Best of luck, have an amazing weekend, and I'll see you hopefully next week.